Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. A quick reminder, inshallah, that this Wednesday, the Fajr Salah, inshallah, will be moving back to 6:15, and Isha will be moving to, inshallah, 9:30. As you know, every morning, inshallah, of Ramadan, except, inshallah, Wednesday morning, we are looking at a surah of the Quran, a bunch of surah of the Quran, inshallah, and then asking the question of what's in the name. What is in the name of the surah? How did the surah get its name? And what are the lessons or benefits that we can take from the surah? Last time we met, we completed, alhamdulillah, reflection, a little bit of thought on Surah Al Anbiya. Today we begin with Surah Al Hajj. Surah Al Hajj. Now, Surah Al Hajj, as we know from the name, is named after Al Hajj. And even though there's only a small bit of mention of the actual Hajj, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Ibrahim alayhi salam, وَأَذِّن فِي النَّاسِ بِالْحَجِّ يَأْتُوكَ رِجَالًا وَعَلَى كُلِّ ضَامِرٍ يَأْتِينَ مِنْ كُلِّ فَجٍّ عَمِيقٍ. Call people to Hajj. They will come from every corner of the world on every possible ride to perform this Hajj. لِيَشْهَدُوا مَنَافِعَ لَهُمْ, to witness all kinds of benefits and all kinds of transformations. Now you can ask yourself a question, and you should ask this question. If we have only a small mention of Al-Hajj, وَإِذْ بَوَأْنَا لِإِبْرَاهِيمَ مَكَانَ الْبَيْتِ, why is the whole surah named Al-Hajj? Even though there are other sections in the Quran where Al-Hajj is mentioned in longer phrases or in longer passages, like Surah Al-Baqarah has a much longer discussion on Al-Hajj itself. Now, subhanAllah, the ulama say that the whole surah actually revolves around the concept of Hajj. If you look at the very beginning, the surah begins with يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم إن زلزلة الساعة شيء عظيم. It's talking about the day of resurrection, the hour, the strike of the hour is going to be a shock to many. Now, the connection between Hajj and resurrection, the connection between Hajj and the journey back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very clear in our tradition. When we perform Hajj, we are getting ready for that final journey back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We wear clothing that is very similar to what we wear when we are buried. We are making a journey back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Hajj contains all of these rituals that we do on a day-to-day basis. We pray salah, of course. We say the shahada many times in Hajj. We use our money like sadaqah, zakat. We use quite a bit. Actually, many of us pay more to go to Hajj than we pay for zakah, right? Maybe not collectively, but at least on an annual basis, right? We fast ثلاثة أيام في الحج وسبعة إذا رجعتم تلك عشرة كاملة. So we fast 3 days in the Hajj and 7 afterwards, if for certain cases. And so Hajj contains all of these worships, all of these acts that we do on a regular basis into one. And most importantly, we're making a journey back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a reminder of resurrection. It's a reminder that we all come from the same source and we're going back to the same destination, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And everything in between is an opportunity to do good and to reflect in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why the whole surah revolves around this idea of resurrection, rooted in this notion of Hajj. So for example, just a few ayat later, يا أيها الناس إن كنتم في ريب من البعث فإن خلقناكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم من علقة. If you have any doubt about recreation or resurrection, then look at how you were created in stages to begin with. You were created from a droplet, and then you became something like a chewed up substance, right? A clot. And then after that, you began to take form, right? And it took, various shapes. Some take shape earlier and some take a little bit longer to develop. And then this is, subhanAllah, continued throughout. The idea of resurrection continues and is echoed many times, subhanAllah, in the surah. And towards the very end as well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the idea that you would not be able to recreate a fly. يا أيها الناس ضرب مثل فاستمعوا له إن الذين تدعون من دون الله لن يخلقوا ذبابا ولو اجتمعوا له يسلبهم الذباب شيئا لا يستنقذونه من ضعف الطالب والمطلوب. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us this idea that if you were to try as a humanity to even create a fly out of nothing or to create it out of precursors, you would not be able to. And even if a fly were to take something, and imagine it, to drink something from, or to eat something, or to consume, you would not be able to recreate that. You would not be able to bring it back. So if you don't have that capacity, and yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can recreate you can resurrect you, then isn't that enough? The fact that he can recreate you and resurrect you, isn't that enough to appreciate and to understand why he is the one that is, subhanallah, um, why he is the one that deserves that absolute right of worship. And then finally, subhanallah, Allah makes it clear, وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ مِلَّةَ أَبِيكُمْ إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Again, the concept of Hajj is rooted again here, echoed again in the fact that we all come from Ibrahim. He is the father of monotheism. He's the father of Islam. And so Hajj is also a reminder of Ibrahim alayhi salam, thus completing the surah. And subhanAllah, when you read it from that lens, you're able to echo and take a lot of meanings, inshallah. The next surah that we look at is Surah Al-Mu'minun, the believers. And it's named, subhanAllah, because it contains the qualities of the believers, the dua of the believers, and the attributes and the attitudes and the characteristics of the believers. Even with the beginning of the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. So Allah gives you the characteristics. How do I know that I'm a believer? Number one, in their prayer, they are present. In their prayer, they have this sense of awe that I'm connecting with Allah. So I am fully, fully present. That is number one. You feel this reverence, you have goosebumps, you feel tears coming down your eyes. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. They turn away from idle talk. You know, you see an argument, you turn away, it's not worth it. You see some rumors being shared, you turn away, it's not worth it. You see this, you see that, it's not worth it. It's not worth my time. I want to protect my peace. I want to protect my inner calm. So you avoid nonsense, you avoid idle talk, right? Unless an intervention is required and you have the capacity, then you intervene. But you intervene with the intention of diffusing, not with the intention of kind of echoing or expanding or allowing things to just play on for no purpose, for no outcome. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِلزَّكَاةِ فَاعِلُونَ. They're constantly engaging in zakah, they're giving in charity. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. They protect their privates, they protect the sanctity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them. إِلَّا عَلَى أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُم. Except the place where Allah told them they're able to execute or to be able to manifest that pleasure. فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ فَهُوَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us even more descriptions. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَعَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. When it comes to their trust and to their promises, they fulfill, they give back the trust, they honor what was given to them in terms of giving it back, and they honor the promises that they made. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَوَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. Again, prayer is mentioned again. They protect their salah. Imagine the salah is a connection to Allah and you protect that. You take it seriously. You get up, you pray on time, you pray well, you prepare for it, you make wudu, you pray your sunnah to get into the process, to get into the mode. And then Allah mentions when you do all of these things, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسِ. These are the ones that are going to truly inherit something good. And what do they inherit? They inherit al-firdaus. And subhanallah, the tabi'een used to read the surah and they used to make dua at this section, Ya Allah, give us al-firdaus. And then subhanAllah, if you want to see further connections in the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us then what should we do as believers? What should we say? قُلْ رَبِّ إِمَّا تُرِيَنِّي مَا يُوعَدُونَ رَبِّ فَلَا تَجْعَلْنِي فِي الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. Oh Allah, you constantly making this dua, Ya Allah, do not make me among those who are oppressive. إِدْفَعْ بِالَّتِي أَحْسَنُ السَّيِّئَةِ. Respond to what is not so good with what is better. وَقُلْ رَبِّ أَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ هَمَزَاتِ الشَّيَاطِينِ. When whispers come, say, Oh Allah, protect me from the whispers of shaitan. وَأَعُوذُ بِكَ رَبِّ أَن يَحْضُرُونَ. And I ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to protect me from them being present in my life. And then subhanAllah, Allah gives us an example of what happens. What happens to the believers on the day of judgment. إِنِّي جَزَيْتُهُمُ الْيَوْمَ بِمَا صَبَرُوا أَنَّهُمْ هُمُ الْفَائِزُونَ. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they will be given a full reward because of their patience. They are indeed the people of success. Even though فَاتَّخَذْتُمُهُمْ سِخْرِيًّا حَتَّى أَنْسَوْكُمْ ذِكْرِي وَكُنْتُمْ مِنْهُمْ تَضْحَكُونَ. Even though in this dunya, many of the believers were mocked, many of the believers were looked at as kind of strange, and they were laughed at, but they have the final, subhanallah, joy, the final smile in the sight and in the presence of and in the vicinity of the court, the justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next surah is Surah An-Nur, Surah An-Nur. And it's named because, subhanallah, Surah An-Nur contains one of the most beautiful ayat of the Quran, the ayah of An-Nur. Allahu nuru as-samawati wal-ard, مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور. Now, There's been so much written about this subhanallah ayah and what it means, but there are two things that we want to take. Allahu nuru samawat wal ard. Allah is the source of light. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. There's no light except that it permeates through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. Your heart is not going to light up except when Allah wills. Your basira, your vision, your insight, your ability to read people, your firasa is not going to be gifted except when Allah wills. The Quran will not be given to you except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. All of these forms of light, your fitrah is not going to remain intact except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. So that's number one. Now, mathalu nurihi, the example of Allah's light, and here's the parable that is explained in a lot of details. But one thing that we can take is I want you to imagine mathalu kamishkatin, it's like a lantern, fiha misbah. And inside that lantern is a light. But the lantern itself lights up as well. So imagine the glass itself that is covering the light itself lights up, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions يُوقَدُ مِنْ شَجَرَةٍ مُبَارَكَةٍ زَيْتُونَةٍ, and it's fueled by a blessed form of light, that is the olive. If you guys see pure olive, how do you test the purity of an olive oil that you use as fuel? How do you test the purity? You put it in sunlight, and if it glows very bright, it's a beautiful glow that is very radiant. That in itself is light. So imagine the fuel is light, the lantern is light, and there's light. So it's nurun ala nur, light upon light. And some say this is like the example of the human being. You have your heart, right? And that is a form of light. Your body itself is containing. Your body becomes the lantern that contains the heart, the light. That itself becomes a form of light when it receives what? The light of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through revelation. And that's what is meant, according to some of the Mufassirun, when they say Nurun ala Nur, when the Nur of the Quran hits the Nur of the Fitrah and the Nur of the heart, that is when you have balance. So you have a lot of good people, they have light in them, but they haven't received revelation, so they're not balanced. They might be taken advantage of. They might lean a little bit towards here, a little bit towards there. Their love might be excessive in a point where it actually can be self-destructive. So how do you maintain that balance as a human being when the light of revelation comes to anchor you and guide you in channeling the light that is inside you? So you need both. You need that internal light. A lot of people say, well, I have, you just know what is good. You just have it in you. That's true. You do. Allah tells you that. But it's not enough because it can be exploited. And we've seen that. All kinds of philosophies and isms that say, oh, out of love, out of mercy, out of justice, this, and the pendulum swings here and there. But the anchoring points come from being connected to the source of light. And how do we stay connected to that? Through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next surah that we're looking at, and again, there are, subhanAllah, so many, again, lessons that we can take from Surah An-Nur. It's called the story of light, or the Surah of light, yet it contains, and it's not surprising that we see containing a lot of benefits and lessons as to how we should actually leave darknesses and what those darknesses are, and how we should live a life of light. And the very first thing that Allah mentions in the surah is zina, right? That we look at الزانية والزاني فجلدوا كل واحد منهما مئة جلدة. That infidelity, engaging in the haram pleasures, is one of the fastest way to lose your light. One of the fastest ways. Haram relationships are one of the fastest ways to lose that internal light, to lose the light of the mind and the light of the face. And I remember, subhanAllah, some of the mashayikh, they could, and some of the people in general, people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given firasa, you can look at somebody and you know that they're going through fitnas, and there's a very specific face of somebody who's been really delving deep into zina, and it's a face of darkness. May Allah protect us from that, Ya Rab. Ameen, ameen, ameen. And then how do we protect? The next thing, subhanAllah, rumors, engaging in rumors, backbiting, hurting other people. That's another way to lose light. And then Allah tells us, Ya alladhina amanu, la tattabi'u khutuwat ash-shaytan. Don't follow the steps of shaitan. One thing leads to another. It doesn't happen immediately. So be careful with those steps that remove you away from that darkness. Al-khabithatu lil-khabithina wal-khabithuna lil-khabithat. Bad words are going to come out of not so good people, and good words are going to be for good people and coming out of good people. And good finds itself around good, and bad finds itself around bad. So find sources of light. be around people of light. لا تدخلوا بيوتا غير بيوتكم. Don't enter homes without permission. So protecting the sanctities of the homes. How do you knock? When do you knock? What kind of things do you look at and do you wear? How do you make sure that you don't compromise your gaze and Allah subhanahu, meaning your eyes? That's another channel that takes away, subhanallah, that light. So all of these ayat in the surah, they go back, subhanallah, to the notion of light and how to preserve that light and how to protect yourself from that darkness, from that darkness. And then finally, subhanallah, we have the beautiful, beautiful ending of the surah that we all love to hear. تبارك الذي جعل في السماء بروجا. He's the one who made light even in the heavens. And just like there are lights in the heavens, there are also lights on earth. You know, we look up and we see the lights of the stars, right? At night. At night, when the angels look down to the earth, the place where there is darkness, they see the light of those who are doing what? Those who have these qualities. وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا وإذا خاطبهم الجاهلون قالوا سلاما والذين يبيتون إلى آخر السورة. The ones who engage in qiyam, the ones who do this and that. So the descriptions then are the people of light that the angels look down upon, as the Mufassirun have said. Hmm? أنا دخلت في الفرقان. Yeah. أحسن جزاك الله خير. So سورة الفرقان, yeah, جزاك الله خير شيخنا. Surah Al-Furqan is the next surah. The section that I was just reading is from Surah Al-Furqan. And some said it is connected to Surah Al-Mu'minun. But in general, Surah Al-Furqan is called Surah Al-Furqan because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins the surah with تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. And Surah Al-Furqan is again a continuation of the qualities of the people of light and avoiding darkness. And what is Furqan? فرق بين الحق والباطل. It's to be able to distinguish between what is right, what is bad, what is good, what is evil, what is dark, and what is light. And the surah comes to, inshallah, assess that and give us examples of how to do that. And one of the main themes in the surah is how to answer the doubtful questions that are raised by those who have doubts. So, for example, وقال الذين لا يرجون لقاءنا لولا أنزل علينا الملائكة أو نرى ربنا. Why haven't angels come down? Why don't we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Why this? Why that? So these questions come in the surah and they are answered. And this is actually captured in ayah 33. وَلَا يَأْتُونَكَ بِمَثَلٍ إِلَّا جِئْنَاكَ بِالْحَقِّ وَأَحْسَنَ تَفْسِيرًا. They don't come up with an example for you or question for you, except that the Quran comes with the best kind of answer and the best kind of clarification. And again, this is where the ending of the surah is, not Surah Al-Mu'minun. Surah Al-Furqan, تبارك الذي جعل في السماء بروجا وجعل فيها سراجا وقمرا منيرا. So again, being able to distinguish between light and dark, being able to distinguish between truth and falsehood, and the qualities of the people that will be able to be given that firasa, be able to be given that ability to distinguish between those two. فجزاكم الله خير. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us. And these are again opportunities to reflect on the surah so we can take them home and read them further, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.